Right now, you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he's expecting to wake up.
Welcome. This is Team Rabbit Hole Edition 284 with Diamond Lightning, Kia Mason, songwriter, musician, producer, Korean American. Join the team as we get to know Kia, a sprightly songbird making tunes and atmosphere, all while tapping into the aloha spirit. Welcome and well met.
Thank you. That's so sweet. I love that write-up.
Well, drive-by gnosis, but I don't know you, hence you being on here. So something we do on the podcast is reduce the episode number. In this case, like you said, 284. 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 4 is 14, 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 is the Hierophant card in Tarot. The Hierophant, I am the teacher of universal law. It's the high priest, basically card, the Hierophant. Caretaker of spiritual knowledge, teaching others what you know, awakening to greater understanding of the world by paying attention to the details. Raphael, what you got?
We got one of my most favorite cards. Maybe you can tell what this could possibly be. I don't know if you know tarot, Kia. So this is
Small.
what? It's not small.
I can't read it, but it's pretty.
It's not about reading. It's just seeing the image. It's a flame.
Gotcha.
So this is the Ace of Wands, or the radix of the powers of fire. We have creation, invention, the starting point of enterprises, energy, action, vigor, money, fortune, inheritance.
So,
right.
Kia, between the Hierophant kind of archetype, major arcana, and that Ace of Wands, magic stick, are there any synchronicities or resonances popping in your brain about that, or nay?
Definitely. I love that card. Those both of them are great. I love the number 5, the 5 elements. Yeah, it's vibing. I'm vibing it all.
That's what's up. And I don't know how many podcasts you've done, but Ace of Wands is kind of like getting on the horse and saying "yeah" and like riding off into the sunset eventually. But
Actually, you're my
there's a-
first.
that's what I
That's
didn't
not
want to
mine.
presume, but
Yeah.
yeah, right, that's
So
what's up.
thank
That's what's up. So that energy is present where it's like we're gonna
Yeah.
be the Hierophant, the fireplace. It can hold the flame, but the fire has been lit. It's like as a kid, this is not something I'm proud of, and don't do this, guys. I would take all-purpose remover called Oops and put it in this creek and light it, and the water would light. Horrible, environmentally not conscious child. Obviously, I was, but that's very Ace of Wands. In any event, my awareness of you, I'm trying to think of how I even turned on to you. The internet is a weird place, so I can't say exactly what made me add you or follow you on Facebook. I'm pretty sure that's where it was.
Right.
But I saw some of your output and I was like, oh, you're hip, you're with it, and you're definitely probably Team Rabbit Hole. So asked you to come on here. So I'm as unaware of you as you are of me. And we were kind of chatting in the green room. So, but
Yeah.
you're chill and you're cool. So kind of, if you will, and you could be as long-winded or as short-winded as you'd prefer.
Okay.
Walk us through your life. We'll get to what you're up to these days at some point, but you've got a kind of a more unique tale, so weave it and the conch is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you. Excuse me. I'm adopted, so around 3 or 4. I was adopted by like German, Welsh, Scottish folk, totally American. And my father was in the Marines, so he eventually was a colonel, so he was pretty high ranking. My mom's a teacher, art teacher. So I had this really unique blend of militant, disciplinary, and creativity, and so that's totally me. And so growing up in California was odd during that time. I think I was like the only Asian, one of few in San
What
Clemente.
city? Okay, San Clemente.
Yeah. So it's like this really cute little surf town, Christian. There was like skinheads or the Mexicans, and then somewhere we were. But I honestly had a really, I always felt odd as a child, like I didn't fit in. Because I had this Asian shell, but I'm totally Americanized. There's a lot of family dynamics to take in and to learn. But somehow I got spit out and I found myself. So that's like the super fast version. Um,
Definitely super fast. Did you
yeah.
surf much? Like, growing up on the
Uh,
coast, were you, like,
I
into
went to
that
the beach.
or okay.
Surfing scared me as a kid. I had a lot of those dreams of like those huge freaking waves that just like. So I was a little scared, but I'd boogie board on like
Word.
lower tides, and I loved it. And then I tried once in Doheny, and I got really jacked up, and I was like, okay. And then what was odd was like Julia Roberts was like right there with like
Oh,
a bunch of
shit.
hot surfers. I'm like, this is very strange. I think I was like 17 or 18, but anyways, so I started to like wake up and just be ready for more. As a 17-year-old, I left my home, decided to just fucking go be me, and I was ready. I think my high school friends were like, "What the hell are you doing?" And kind of just we parted ways. They were worried about high school. I'm like, I'm getting 2 jobs, finding my way.
You just
And so I
dipped.
did.
You
Yeah,
don't hang 10 on the water, you hung 10 in fucking life, apparently. You're just
I
like,
did.
"Deuces."
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it was
were you
rough. I didn't do
what
it super.
triggered this? I mean, did you read, like, Hatchet or, like, To Kill a Mockingbird and something got like, what was the trigger point here? Like, were you
You
just like, "I'm
know,
out of here. I've gotta do it."
I'm the youngest child, so I was
Okay.
the only one there, and my parents were divorced around 12. And since
Mhm.
during that time to like, 17,
17.
it was like this. Being a teenager is just an odd time. I
It's a
probably thought I
confusing
knew
moment
it
in all of our
all.
lives. Yeah.
My mom was probably going through her whole process of a 25-year-old marriage disintegrating. But ultimately, I think it's like when you're that age and you're a female, you want your own queendom,
Mhm.
and so being such a in a disciplined family, I was like, I need to find my freedom. So I did.
Talk about Hierophant card meets the Ace of Wands. You're just like,
Yeah.
"Alright, time to burn down the house and dip."
Yeah,
Uh, I can
definitely.
kinda understand that. So there wasn't necessarily like, "Oh, I ate acid and I found God, now I gotta go." It was more
That
like,
came later.
okay, word, word. We can get to that. But, so it was all I mean, it was a manifest destiny is kind of a loaded term, but it's like you were just like, "Alright, this isn't working." Like you said, "I want my own queendom. It's time
Yeah.
to kinda
And I'm just always
kick it."
curious. Like I love learning by experience and doing it, even though you get told like the great advice and what to do and not to do, and you just gotta fucking figure it out on your own and fall on your face, fail, pick yourself up. I love that. So that's what I did, and I failed a lot, and I
Well,
succeeded a lot too. So it was I wouldn't have it any other way.
what were some of the directions your life went at that point? I mean, did you just go to, like, a crack house? Like, what did you do? Did you I mean, that's an extreme version, but it's like, did you hang out with people? Were you doing it with, like, a pod of other orcas doing this? Or were you just like, try to fill in the gaps a little for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
So I was like super advanced student, great grades, like 4 point something, hella bored. Like
hella
the whole
bored.
school system sucked. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the next. And that's prompted to what's out there, the
Right.
curiosity. And so I did. I went out with like my one red duffel bag. I think I got in an argument with my mom. It was probably not good. I'm like, fuck it, I'm out of here. So I went. No plan, no nothing, no money, just like
It's like a Greyhound station, or what'd you do?
no, well, I had my car,
Oh, okay,
but I
word.
went.
That helps.
Yeah, and then, of course, I met a boyfriend,
Mhm.
did that whole thing, not the right kind, but through that process, what was really cool is, I actually watched your show with that really beautiful, English woman, the astrologer, and she was speaking about her life, and I was like, "Oh, wow, I have a very similar path." Like, what happened was I ended up in the, like, electronic music community worldwide in California, and that really opened me up to just an such a vast different world than this very sleepy, conservative San Clemente town. And so I did a lot of ecstasy that just completely
Right.
opened me up. And back then, I'd say I hit the tail end of when it was good, and then it went to shit, like,
It's
just
got like
a few
fentanyl and
years.
stuff now. I don't even dare
Oh,
do it.
I don't
Yeah.
touch any of that. But during that time when I was 18, I was like, wow, you can feel like this with other people and connect in these ways. It just blew my mind. And being so shut down during like childhood, dancing for hours was like, oh my God,
Big
incredible.
catharsis, big
Yeah.
release.
And the music
Even if
was
so, like, what year is that? Like, just to get, I mean, I don't want to pigeonhole you like an
98,
age or 90. Okay, dude, that's a good year
98.
for electronica.
Yeah.
I mean, Daft Punk's starting to kick in, not quite
Mhm.
yet to their "We Are Robots, the Studio Accident Happened" phase,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to think who else. See, because you're a little older than me, so I'm like,
Mhm.
I think I graduated in 2004. So you were aware of a scene. I guess Prodigy I would have heard of, but that's not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
They were-
not, whatever.
Yes.
Name some bands, I guess. Effects Twins or Apex Twins or whatever
Yeah.
they're called.
I appreciated them. During that time, I was around an international crew that were really into like the European DJs that came
Mm.
over. And so we're like Sasha Digweed. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but anyways,
No,
it
but
was like tech
lay them on
house.
me and I'll check this shit out.
Yeah, so I would consider it like mainstream electronic back then. I've definitely evolved into more underground scenes, but
Mm.
that definitely was a very opening period where then I started to question reality, which then led to mushrooms and then led to me completely rewriting everything, which was fabulous.
It's
Because
funny
I've
that you started with E and then you went to mushrooms.
no,
It's like, holy cow,
because
that's synthetic to
yeah,
organic. Mm.
yeah. So I think I was just really shut down. And so I don't like recommend ecstasy, especially nowadays. But back then there was like this tail end where there was a lot of like heart in it, where you could be in one room with everyone from any different country, any age, and there was no barrier, there was no identity, there was no label, there was not no shits given. Just
Mm.
love for the music, the vibe, and just celebrating. And it was beautiful.
The
It's
90s were
not
dope.
like that anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna
What?
say after the millennial, like the 90s were. I
Yeah.
mean, I consider myself a 90s kid. I was born in '85, but it's like the analog to digital kind of shift, and maybe part of it is the zeitgeist with the millennium and expectations. Things just sped up, and then 9/11 happened, which kind of twisted things up, and made fear kind of a heavier reality, I
Mhm.
guess you could put it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it would have been interesting to be having a fun time back then because I think it would have been a little more carefree, probably.
I was definitely carefree, and now I am completely different. I
Now
don't
you're
do any of
careful, and you found the balance.
I'm just I don't need anything, like back then you're like looking for answers and needing, wanting, finding, and
Mm.
now it's just, it's different.
Be you.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, just
share,
be the thing.
experience.
So, when you say international crew, how did you get involved? I mean, it was because of the EDM scene, and you were like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
guys are all DJs from
I
Germany," or
mean, it was
whatever?
like Jordanians, Saudi Arabian, Peruvian, I was the token Asian, but
Right?
it's like and, yeah, we had a blast, and all of us are probably in much different lives now, but, it did form us into, I think, just a wider perspective. Like I said, I don't think the scene's like that anymore. I've DJ'd over the years. I've been the go-go dancer, I've been the promoter, I've been the DJ. What else? Basically the ticket. I mean, you name it. I played every part,
Right?
and
The
it's
scene
just
has changed.
the scene has changed a lot, and so have I. So of course, everything just feels different.
So, it wasn't like an AOL fucking chat group, and you guys were all like, "Oh, hey, what's up? Let's meet." I'm just trying to get my head around I mean, it's obvious, I guess, music can bring, because it's a universal language, it brings all sorts of types of people together, economic, I mean, it's tricky because if you don't have $1,000 for a Rolling Stones concert or whatever, you don't get in or whatever
Yeah,
they are these days.
I know
Um,
it's crazy. The concerts. I don't get it.
so yeah, so there wasn't any like psychedelic or weird. I mean, psychedelic's a weird word. There wasn't any. There was nothing much more to the international thing. I was just like, oh, did you go somewhere crazy and meet all these people, or it was just
I
like
wish.
that was the
The
magical mystery
electronic
tour bus
music.
was that,
Yeah. The electronic music was what brought the international aspect, and then we just kind of found each other and stuck. And then we went through this phase of partying and adventuring, and then we kind of all just landed in different directions. So it was just like a little blip in your 20s. Be reckless and yeah.
Learn from the scabs later. It's
Yeah.
funny because Raphael's he went last year, I think, or in a few years before that. Maybe when COVID wasn't happening, he's like come to Azora, this kind of psytrance thing over in I
Oh
guess
wow.
Hungary, and I may
Okay.
or may not go. But I haven't been to Burning Man or anything. I've only been to one festival up in Orcas Island, so it's not
Oh
like
wow.
I'm not on a scene like that particularly. But I love good music, whether it's
Yeah.
electronic or ukulele or whatever. Speaking of ukulele, is that something you picked up later in life, or have you always
Yes.
kind of traiped around with it?
It-
Okay, cool.
yeah, I picked it up on Kauai when I lived there for about 14 years.
That is a
Um,
hot minute. That is
yeah.
2
So
cell cycles of, 7 years you're a new person or whatever.
yeah,
So you
it's
did a lot
it's
of
kind of
picnics
more
there.
the exciting time in my life because I feel like I grew up there, even though I was an
Mm,
adult. It formed me, more so than like San Clemente. San Clemente, I was like, okay, yeah, hella boring. Bye.
right.
What else is there? And then I moved to LA and did that whole LA shit show. But at least there's diversity there, right?
Mm.
And music. And so I ate that up. And then I had this I had this odd encounter. There's a place called Erewhon. It's like a health food store with this tonic bar and smoothies. And there's one guy that worked there. I was like, you should go see my friend Delilah. And I just felt like I should. So I did. Ended up being that it sounds pretty out there and like woo woo, but it is. But anyways, this woman, this beautiful, like golden afro powerhouse, just her energy vibe was like alien, if I had to put a
Mm.
word to it. But like,
Word.
I guess priestess would be also, but I know some people get repelled by that word. But she did a session on me. I paid good money for
For,
the
like,
session.
astrology? Or what do you mean by session?
No, she calls it etheric surgery.
Okay,
So
okay. Yeah.
I'll tie that previous life to this, why I ended up in Kauai. So I did all those drugs, right? Not
Party, party,
knowing
party.
anything about energy and what it does, how it opens, how you can get a little like
Attachments.
brainy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so she did a session on me and she's like, "Girl, you're a tonic bar." I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" And she's like, "You're a tonic bar for a lot of people. They're just
Lucian.
sucking off of you." And I
Yeah.
thought, what? And I never heard someone like articulate it in that way. And so she laid me down on this beautiful room and put, I don't know, like 300 plus crystals laying. I had a sheet and it was dark. And then her voice changed. And I was like, what the fuck's happening? Um, and these crystals flew off and some broke. Now,
What?
that's all I know. I'm not going to
High
try to put
energy.
more like I know this fucking shit.
Sure,
But
sure.
she spoke to me like your life's going to change. Um
You owe me some crystals?
and
No, I'm
she's
kidding.
like, watch out for well, yeah. I know. I felt so bad, but she's like, it happens all the time. It's normal. And so she said, your life's gonna change. Watch out for the wolves in sheep's clothing. And I was going to Mount Shasta a lot. That was like my opening while living in LA.
Mm.
And so anyways, after the session, she walked in, she's like making this kind of dramatic, like, are you all right? Like you can walk. And I'm thinking, yeah. Like, am I supposed to feel something more like white lights and I'm a virgin? I don't know.
Yeah. Walk-in
So
stuff.
I didn't notice anything that night. I slept. I went to my job. I was a bartender at the time because I was doing that whole acting, bartending shit. And I went to my job and the whole environment, I actually ran out crying.
What?
It was so intense. I had no idea that like I was energetically feeding my coworkers. Whoops. And they were like approaching me in such an aggressive way that I at that time did not understand what she was actually trying to tell me,
It's like
which
the
was
energy vampirism stuffs,
yeah.
basically.
So basically I just like came out from a certain veil,
Mm.
right? That most people don't even know about, talk about, or see, or even want to. I do want to. I want to fucking figure out what the hell's going on, what I can do to contribute. How can I make the people feel good? So those questions. But anyways, that really changed the direction. After that, I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of LA. I did. I went to Mount Shasta for like a vision quest. And
Was this for the Hollow Earth kind of entrance portal thing? I've never been there. Like, what was your understanding of Shasta? What is your understanding of
a
Mount Shasta?
vortex, a
Yeah. Okay.
power.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
powerful mountain, and I love mountains. Mountains for me are just as important as the sea. And so I went up there. I fasted for like 3 days and slept on the mountain, and just realized, did a vision quest, and then ended up meeting this woman. Fast forward, I'm kind of fast forwarding all these details because
It's all
just seems
good.
like dumb, but
No, they're not dumb to me. Start there. I mean, we
okay.
could literally hang on Mount Shasta for 30 minutes and I'd be like, what is it? How is it? Is it big? What? I mean, I've never been there. So,
Yeah, that's
in any
funny.
event, yeah, don't feed.
Yeah,
It
so
is what
this.
it is. But yeah, don't be too self-conscious.
Oh yeah,
Flow.
thanks.
Just jam, man.
Okay, damn it. So this lady was like, "Oh, tell me what you see up from these rocks." And so I did. And it was an island with rooster and egg. I might be forgetting a few. And so I get this call from a friend, like she's crying. Her boyfriend's ditching her for her Hawaii trip. Do you want his ticket?
Oh
And I was like,
man.
that's so
Ground score.
fucking weird because I just did this vision quest that's like go to Hawaii. And so, long story short, I ended up going to Kauai, not really knowing how magical it actually is. And then when I landed, my connection to that land was like, I just never experienced anything like that. And I stayed there for about 14 years. And I did raise a kid there. I had a lot of growth and a lot of like fucking hardships on that island. It is an intense paradise with a cost, but I came out better than I went in, so it worked.
That's what's up. Having moved to Oahu and been in Waikiki for a year and then downtown Honolulu, it's weird because I have not been to Kauai. I've been to Maui, which is like, you can't even encapsulate some of the stories. It's like, illegally camping on a golf course watching whales breach or shit
Right.
like that, right? So it's like Hawaii is a weird.
What year?
What year?
Mhm.
That was, I got there in 2010 and we left at like October or maybe like a year and a half, basically the end of 2011.
Okay.
So it was a weird trip. I got baptized in the Pacific on Easter, but I lost my V
Oh, wow.
card to a hooker on. So it was just like, what is going on here? It was a wild place. I got a Jupiter line right near Honolulu, so it's like a lot of stuff
Wow.
happens. But I digress. The point being, it's people won't know unless they go there. And I haven't been to the Garden Island. I've just been to the meeting place or whatever,
Yeah.
in Maui. But I don't know if it's because it's the land of Mu, kind of woo
Right.
stuff, and like these are the old mountains. Or my theory was like, oh, this is a geomagnetically like active. I mean, it's relatively fresh Earth because of the volcanism.
Right.
So there's just like there is a vibe and a spirit, aloha spirit. I mean, it's kind of what they call it, but
Mhm.
it trips you out, at least for me, because it was like Never Land, where it's like it's always nice, and then it turned into like, oh, there's an ABC liquor store on every corner or whatever. I'll just party like Waikiki, right? And then I just
Waikiki's
kind of
so
lost my
weird.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Vegas on the water, and I haven't been to Vegas,
Yeah.
but it's like that's the idea. It's just like cut loose, man, and whatever. In any event, what were some of the highlights? I mean, you had a child there. You had you had
Yeah.
like 2 7-year things. You had life there. I mean, that's a chunk of life.
Yeah. I
Tell
had
us
my
about
Saturn
Kauai.
return there.
Oh
I
snap!
must have had some like plutonian shit going down because that was like 7 years of like, what the fuck? It's the crazy
What was
shit.
so disorienting? Were you like walk me through that? I mean, it was like, am I a woman or
Um,
not? Like that level, or like
Part of the
what?
disorienting was I was around probably bad choices in men a
Mm,
few rounds, but
right.
also I think when you're rewiring everything, and what I love about that island is the mana. It's legit.
Yeah, the
That
energy.
fucking land speaks to you if you listen, if you're humble, you're receptive to it. It heals. It can I mean it inspires, it has answers. And so I forgot the question that you asked.
Kauai drive by.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it's a big chunk of time, but it's like highlights, lowlights, everything.
Okay, so 3 months after I landed there and decided to move there, I got pregnant.
Whoa, that's a shift of gears.
And it was because I was like probably in my group of previous friends the last one to ever get married or have a baby. And I was
Huh.
basically the first one. And I think I was 26. So I was
Okay.
26 and I thought, fuck, I've never been in this position. I didn't really think like abortion. I just like I was like a girl. You know what I mean? I feel like every woman is like this girl, and then you become this woman when you birth a child.
I know
And
there's a
I'm
lot of
not
hormonal changes and stuff. I mean, I
Mhm,
think you really physiologically change.
mhm.
I'm a bachelor, so it's like I don't know how it is to live for something else. I'm too selfish for kids. But I think it changes you fundamentally, like neurologically, where you're like, I have to defend
Yeah,
this and provide, and you can, like theoretically, there's bad parents, but
right.
yeah, it seems like you just shifted gears as a
Yeah.
woman, like you're saying.
Yeah, it was pretty miraculous just to see, like, the miracle of it. It really is. I don't know how deep I had a natural birth. I really wanted to do that. I did. It's fucking intense. I didn't have the orgasmic birth, which was, like, the new fad during that time.
Right.
But I do believe in it. I do believe that we're programmed to have, like, these painful births that are traumatic, and it just there's always, like I'm always open to a better way, or why not? Or how come it's not? You know? So, but as far as smoothness, I had a beautiful Hawaiian midwife. I couldn't have written it any better. She's healthy. My daughter, she's 15 now. It's fucking
That's
crazy.
gnarly. Yeah, it's like, oh, she could drive. Shit.
I
Okay.
know we're
So the story
driving.
continues. Yeah, it's
So
like hopefully she doesn't just get in the car and ditch you like what you did, right? I don't think she will. I
we're
don't know
trying
her. But
yeah,
so
we
what's
haven't
crazy
prepared.
though
Mhm.
is I think Henry VIII was like the reason women like kind of get in the stirrup kind of situation and like
Mhm.
on their backs and all that stuff. This could be an urban myth. I'm not a historian and I'm not a midwife or whatever. So the idea was women normally do it kind of the way you're talking about it, maybe even standing up or in water. And there's way
Mhm.
better ways to do it. And then
Mhm.
I guess Henry VIII was like, I want to watch my offspring come in. And it became like an English cultural thing. And it's really
Mm.
not healthy for the woman or physiologically like better. It's like much more difficult to give birth on your back in that way. I don't know why
Yeah.
it's like the go-to method. I don't want to be like European colonialism all the way, but it's like that seems to have
Happened a
you know,
lot.
it's like, why the fuck? Yeah. It's like, there's better ways. Let's
Right.
try the better way. Maybe take a poll. I don't know, because I'm a man, so I don't have children. But the fact that you did it drug free, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's a harrowing process, but if you do it right, it's much less harrowing, I guess, is
Yeah.
kind of why I'm saying all this shit. It's like the way um the body is laying in modern pregnancies and birthings is just not conducive gravitationally and all sorts of stuff. It's just like this isn't. It
Yeah.
could be easier.
Yeah.
So you basically had the child, the girl, the daughter. What's her name?
Yeah.
Did you make it all
Anamika.
Hawaiian? Okay, yeah. What was that
Uh, Anamika is or Anamika in Sanskrit is the nameless ones, or one
word?
who's so beautiful that they can't be named. I really love that because she I did a meditation when I was pregnant. I heard Annika. I knew it wasn't that. And so then when she was born, I think it was like a few days after where the name came through. And it was actually by an Indian woman. And as soon as I heard it, I'm like, that's it, because I didn't want to be like, oh, I want to name her Lindsay. I don't know.
Right.
Like it's just funny, like name your dog, name your child. And I really wanted her to tell me what her name is. It's a little different, but it just felt right to do it that
No,
way.
that's
So
cool.
yeah.
Is your name? I mean, were you given your name, and do you know what Kia
So I've had
means?
3 names.
Oh shit.
Being adopted, my original Korean name is Kim Min Sun. So
Okay.
they say last name first. So in America, it would be like Min Sun Kim. And
Okay.
so that was obviously not my name. It changed to, I can't believe I'm going to tell
Uh-oh.
you this, but I like
Well,
you. So I'm going to tell you.
okay. We're in, guys.
So
We got the VIP.
I know, right? My adopted parents named me Stacy Walters.
That's a pretty waspy name.
It's
Uh
get the middle name, Lee, Stacy
Stacy
Lee
Lee
Walters.
Walters.
So,
Okay, that's got a vibe. A particular
it
kind of
was
karma going that way.
yeah, I know, right?
How quickly did you shed that? Like when you were like 18, you're like,
Um,
I'm doing something else?
on that Vision Quest on
Word.
Shasta, I just was like, I know it sounds woo woo. Even my mom at that time was like, "Are you in a cult?" Because like I was changing so much, and I'm like, "I'm changing my name." and it scares people.
Ace of Wands,
I'm
man.
I am a
Burning path.
change. I change all the fucking time. People can't keep up. I don't care. I can't not change. Like,
You gotta do
does
you.
anyone not change? You know, like why is change so fucking scary? I don't know. Anyways, that was my
So
rant.
no, you're all good. That's what we're all about here. So Kia, I mean, when you say you got on the Vision Quest, were you like on
Mhm.
mushrooms? You're like, oh my god, I want to be called Kia, or like
I was actually sober, but
Word.
I combined the two names. So Kia, it's actually Kia. Kiana's son, right? So that's the
Okay.
fusion of my adopted name and the birth Korean name. Because Stacy is actually Anastasia, and
Okay.
which I'm good with that. Stacy's a little, you know, that one was hard. Even in school, they called my name for roll, and it was like, huh? You know, there was no, it
Didn't
just
register.
no.
Yeah.
And so I felt like that would be like bringing it all together because I really don't have Korean culture. I love kimchi, like we mentioned.
Yeah.
My daughter, ironically, is more fucking Asian than I am.
I think everybody like in the post-internet age is more Asian than a lot of actual
I
Asians.
do, and it's beautiful because when
It's
I was
odd.
growing up, Asian was not cool. It's like, oh, you're good at math, and oh, you know, that whole shit. And I was just like, this is so fucking weird. I feel as white as can be because my parents are. And here you
Yeah.
are reminding me that I'm fucking Asian, and I'm like, huh? I don't get it. But anyways, that's my
That's
whole
gotta be its own trip where it's like
it
the
is.
software isn't matching the hardware exactly,
I
and they're like
know.
ridiculing the
Yeah.
hardware, and it's like, wait, but I'm running fucking Apple like you are. Why are you talking about the color of my phone? Weird.
Yeah, one time when I think I was like maybe 10 or 12, this like skinhead came up to me and was like really aggressive about Asian. And it just scared the shit out of me.
Like
I'm like,
American History X shit,
yeah,
basically.
like just
Nope.
because I was
Okay.
Asian.
Yeah.
And I try not to
Well,
do
fuck
the race,
that.
but
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean,
it's
it's
just so
tricky.
silly. I'm like, okay.
I think people
Everyone
who
is
are
like
really
because everyone
racist
else.
tend to be really simple. Like it's just uber low resolution tribalism, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I was hearing somebody talk about Hitler, and it's not so much, this is a weird way to put it. Hitler wasn't, I'm not going to say he wasn't racist. I don't think it was quite that simple. He had a high level of disgust, and he looked at things that weren't part of the Aryan culture as like,
Yeah.
you know, sicknesses or whatever. That's
Yeah.
right. I mean, it turns into racism clearly, but it's interesting. I would not that I care that much, but it'd be interesting to see like is that guy just regurgitating his culture and just kind of the barking the line to the party kind of thing, you know, like it's not
Right.
his thinking and he's just a machine in the fucking, you know, how cognizant of his hate was he? Because it's one thing, let's put it this way, and this is a weird thing, and we were kind of talking about it in the thing in the green room, having lived in Hawaii, being white,
Yeah.
Hale, spiritless according to, you know, the locals.
Oh my God.
I was the minority,
Without
right?
breath. Without breath.
Yeah, exactly. Without ha, right, exactly, spirit. But being the minority, it was like it was not a bad mind fuck, but it was a wake up call, which is like, oh
It is
shit.
weird.
Yeah. So it would be interesting to see kind of. I mean, I don't really care, and we can't ask him now, but that dick. Either he was totally an NPC, like racist bot for his fucking family or whatever, or it would be interesting to hear his reasoning if there would be any to that kind of stuff. Because I guess what I was getting at is
Probably low
tribes are
self-confidence.
real. Like,
Yeah.
like we're all Earthlings. I get
A
that, but
mean
like
mom.
a mean mom, right?
Okay.
Well,
So
it gets
before
tricky.
you
Anyway,
before you
Raphael, jump in.
continue on, I'm curious about this. So first, I love hearing your story. And so what would you say in terms of racism? Because I mean, one thing is obvious it's being hugely medialized and
Oh
weaponized
man.
for certain,
Yeah.
but just in terms of both of your like general sentiment, because
Mhm.
I've been through America, but you know, only in certain communities and with certain people. I didn't
Sure.
encounter any racism on Hate Street or something, you know. So would you say like there are certain groups that maybe are like this really because probably, you know, they've also been tribalized usually by the government or some nefarious, you know, it's usually a control tactic anyways. But would you
Mhm.
say this is like prevalent that people are racist? Because I think in America particularly, I mean, there's everything. That's kind of what America is in terms of
Right.
immigration nation, no?
Yeah, I don't try. I know it's getting like stuffed down our throats, the whole racism, and I actually try to not even listen to it or even think much about it. But in regards to like growing up in that way, because the irony is like I'm freaking white as you can get.
Right.
But like of course I have the Asian shell and I've learned to actually really love it and appreciate it. Well, as a kid, I didn't. I was like, oh, I want to be blonde or some shit, playing with my Barbies. But as far as like the racism in the US at the moment, everything's so inflamed. It's hard to like really measure. But going out, I live in Virginia right now, and every
Choke you
once in a
down.
while I'll go out,
Yeah.
right? And I always forget I'm Asian, and then someone will have this like vibe, and I'll pick up on it because I'm pretty intuitive, and they'll like kind of have the scowl. And I mean, we've been programmed. There's the coronavirus. There's Chinese. People might think I'm Chinese, but then when they hear me fucking speak, their whole face, they're like, they don't know like what to do for the moment. And I find it in those little moments, but it doesn't bother me. Even in more like actual severe, like maybe hostile vibe, it just seems so like I just don't connect with it at all. Like I don't,
You're
it's
above
like
it.
kids. Yeah, well, it's like kids. Like there's no
Yeah,
such
it's
thing.
petty. It's like, what the
Yeah,
fuck are you
it
talking
doesn't
about?
even exist.
Yeah. So I'm just kind
Bad
of
gang
asking in a
warfare.
sense whether it's like how much it really is there, but of course ultimately it's all about one's own reaction. Just because
Yeah.
I'm like trying to imagine. I mean, in any country, you have, depending where you are, people look at whites, people look at blacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like what Jim was saying, you go to Hawaii, and when I moved there, I'm
Oh, you
like
were
in a
one
sea of
of
Asian.
you were
I'm like,
in.
I've never experienced this, and I was like, wow, I'm like a local. If
Yeah.
until they hear me speak, and they're like, oh, you're,
Cobra, what you doing?
yeah,
Or whatever. The pigeon. It's funny because
yeah.
cruelty, I think, is the the malice and the cruelty. Because growing up, I mean, I have kind of more almond eyes, and
Mhm.
I was called Chinese blonde, and I'm Scotch, Irish, German, or whatever. It's like I was like, what? So ignorance it's a bell curve. You know what I mean? There's monkeys on the one end who are like, we are all one, Earthlings, yay, and they're woke to that, and then there's people who are like, if you don't have blonde hair, fuck you, or whatever. It takes all kinds on the one hand, but
Right.
I appreciate your sentiment of it's absurd. I mean, maybe that's the
It
best way
is.
to approach it. So it's like, how
Speaking
do you
of
deal with a
blonde,
dog? Yeah, what's up?
what's
I
funny
used
is
to
my
have blonde
daughter.
hair.
Really? Oh, sweet.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
I
Like, you
mean,
can't tell now.
I don't have a preference of hair color, but my daughter had blonde, and as a Hapa, which is half
Yeah,
Asian, half Caucasian, the babies do not have blonde unless they have that recessive gene. She
yeah.
has blonde or had blonde. So back, I mean, because I'm adopted, I don't know what the fuck, but generations back, you just don't know what's in me, But what the irony is, I completely vibe with Celtic, Druid, Scottish, Irish, maybe British. I don't know, but
It's
because
Tartarian, Raphael.
yeah, right.
What I'm about to say.
Mhm. Huh?
I think
No,
I cut you off, and
Oh,
yes,
so
yes.
basically you're saying your
Just
daughter
continue.
is a towhead, and now she's not. Kind
But
of.
basically, what I just wanted to say in terms of the research, it's really interesting because just like you said, often we get this, I guess, highly simplified variant of genetics where it
mhm,
says recessive dominant. That's what you learn in school, and
right.
there's so many things. It's not exactly like that,
Okay.
apparently. Because no, well, you would be the proof of it, no? Like, how could that otherwise happen if it's only
Right.
recessive and your daughter is blonde? On a
Okay.
very simplified level, that would be
Sure.
impossible if blonde is recessive only, and it's only
Right.
a one-way, one-layer thing. And then, of course, the question is who's back in the line, and
Yep.
also how is genetics actually working? And probably it's much more interesting. And your daughter would be kind of proof for that. Yeah. So thanks for
Yeah.
bringing it up. It's
Yeah,
very
it is
interesting. Yeah.
interesting. I know,
When
it
he said back
fascinates
in the
me.
line, I just thought of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't know if you ever watched that,
Yeah,
with like all the avatars in the past. He's like,
right.
I'm the last one. Anyway, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to cut you off.
No, no, no. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see a child like part of your genes, and you're like, what the fuck? It's like kind of mind blowing. Actually, it's psychedelic. Actually,
That's one of the
like
reasons I don't
she'll
want
do
children.
things
Like a
that
half you running around, just like, what
I
the fuck?
know. Yeah, and she'll do things that she never like has seen me do that I did as a child, and I'm like, wow, that's a fucking trip.
Yeah, it's weird,
Good
but
things,
it's what
but
a
you know what?
privilege.
I
So 17 or 14 years ish. So you had the child kind of early on in the adventure,
Mhm.
and you kind of melted in. I mean, it's a big melting pot for Asians, like you said, Hapa. I think that's like Hawaiian,
Yeah.
Japanese kind of slang for
Mhm.
like half breed's too strong a word, but it's like mixed race, I guess. Um, so what were some other highlights? I mean, having a natural birth is pretty crazy and early on in
Mm.
the adventure. So were you on a farm with chickens, like this little vision? Like,
Ah,
did roosters play into your life much, or whatever you saw in
which
Shasta?
oh, in Mount Shasta, I was just at the top of the mountain, and I ran into this lady. So yeah, but the Kauai thing was basically, man, it's like 30 lifetimes squeezed in there. But basically I arrived like scared and
Mhm.
needing to like just empty out and then rebuild, whatever that meant. I did, and it was messy, and I was probably a wreck. But I didn't like appear it, but the internal dialogue. Um and then I also found, like, myself through the nature there. It's so magical. And the time I was there, it wasn't super crowded like it is now, so I had the
Mhm.
last tail end of the glory days, which you could have a beach to yourself all day long and not see one person. It's not like that anymore. So I would have these very beautiful, long nature, experiences. I would go hike into the Nepali coast, which is not, reachable by a car. You have to either boat
That's the
in,
postcard kind
hike
of
in. Yeah,
beaches with the mountains coming to the ocean.
yeah, the
Seen it, but
peak.
not been there. Yeah, that looks
It's
crazy.
magical, and it's isolated. It's like the womb of the island, so
Mm.
it's even more it's even louder there because the outside world is, like, buffered, and you go deep. And that's how I am. I like to go deep, jugular, fucking figure it out, move on, and so that's what that process was for me, and also learning the magic of nature, the magic of that the way we've been programmed to create reality is just one very limited version. And there's so many other options and so many other fun, more creative ways that we can actually do and move things. And so that was part of it. For instance, in Kalalau, it's like this amplified area, right? One
Mhm.
day you'll be hiking and there's like beautiful waterfall, river, just total peaceful. You bump into an acquaintance and you're like, God, I wish we could have ice cream. Randomly, 5 minutes later, a boat hauls in with this character who boated in ice cream for the people that are in there. It's like that. It's
Mhm.
really, you just can't write this shit. Like, you don't even. So, what it did was it rewired the way I perceived how things work. And I think that's really important for all of us, that maybe we don't have it figured out. Maybe we don't know,
That's a
you know?
safe bet. We
Yeah.
definitely don't get it all. There's more to the picture. I try to live between a juxtaposition of two kind of mantras. Um, this is like, how white am I? So Pink Floyd has a lyric says, "All you touch and all you see is all your life will ever be." It's a very kind of materialistic, kind of like you are what your experiences
Mhm.
are, kind of thing. And then Neil Young is like, "There's more to the picture than meets the eye." So it's somewhere between the. I mean, it's both at the same time. So it's like it's way more than you could perceive. X-rays were real
Mhm.
before we knew about them through technology, but we had to go out and experience it firsthand before we knew the case or whatever.
Right.
It's a trip. Life is fucking crazy. So it sounds like you got more lucid, or
Mhm.
whatever, however you'd put it, in
Yep.
Kauai. What were you? You were go-go dancing and bartending and all this stuff before all that. What was the
Yeah.
transition of life to Kauai? Because that's farm, that's country, more or less. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
not so much now, but it's like a
Total
few
country.
hotels and then country. Yeah.
Yeah, and I am a country girl for sure. I can city slick, but not so much anymore.
Hmm.
But I'd say the mushroom trip that totally changed. Like before that one crazy whatever Delilah experience, I had a mushroom trip. I did a hero's dose, and
5 grams in silent
basically,
darkness, McKenna style. You mean? Or
what?
like Terrence McKenna was like, "Eat 5 grams in darkness,
Yeah.
and
Well,
you'll
no,
see
not
God," or
that
whatever.
way, but, like, I
A
ate
fair
a
amount.
lot,
Yeah.
and, my boyfriend at the time went into the bad trip, and I went
Oh,
into the
fun.
opposite. Like, Bruce Lee was there, I was talking to Bruce Lee, I'm like, "I fucking get it," because I was, like, studying Jeet Kune Do at the time, and it's
Okay.
like, "There is no limitation," it's like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah," but it's just like, you hear it, you say it, but in that mushroom trip, I fucking felt it, you know what I mean? And I don't know. It was enough to see him and to converse. It sounds fucking crazy. It is.
It doesn't.
Um,
No, it's all
but
archetypes are dope, and that's
I
how it
know, right?
manifested. Yeah.
That boyfriend, before he went down the bad trip, he saw me like create water in this bottle. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it's just
Waterbender.
one of those like beyond. It was a strong dose.
Yeah. No, I mean, shit. It gets tricky. We've talked about this, I think, last or at some point. Like Terrence McKenna, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's kind of the mushroom DMT kind of
Yes.
dude spokesperson back in the day, like
Yeah.
Timothy Leary was for acid. And he and his brother went down to South America and basically had mass, like I think, like 10 grams or something crazy, like a lot for a long
Yeah.
period, and they were like fucking with levels of reality. And it
Yeah.
gets into anecdotals like, is this happening? Is this a trip?
Yeah.
Is it
I
hallucination?
know.
Like, I think his book
Yeah.
is called True Hallucinations. So they're like, we have a key. I don't know. I'm not even, I should do more research before I talk about bullshit I don't know. But the point is, I wouldn't, how would I put it? It's very possible in a quantum weird universe that weird shit can happen. I mean, we don't have the answers. So when you say, "Oh my gosh," if you start writing it off as, "Oh, I was on drugs," like I don't need to do that right away, because who
Yeah.
knows? Like
Yeah. I
what
mean, if
is true.
it was just me, I might have been like, I don't know. But
Fucking with myself,
because
man.
both of us saw the same thing, it's like, I don't know. You guys,
And just
you
as
know.
a reminder, Jim, I mean, we've had Brian on a few times, a dear friend of mine, the Wizard of Odd, whose deck I just showed you, actually. This is his deck. And, he's telling crazy stories. There's very small, simple effects he's even showing, I guess, which are for public consumption, just like, having a rod and making it spin without touching it, right? So
Yeah.
magnetics, yeah. But I'm 100% sure there's, all of these things and more that are possible. It's just that usually we're so conditioned not to trust ourselves in that. And even if
Yeah.
we see it, trying to make up an explanation for it, even though it obviously wasn't the normal linear way how it happened. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
very much encourage everyone to really take these things seriously, in a sense, yeah, and not trying to, put them away. And aside from that, in terms of the stories you told, I guess this is what they call synchronicity, right? When you then realize it's a connection and meaning. And one thing, just for my own exploration also, have you had any personal experiences with the so-called Mandela effect?
Yes. Still do.
Oh,
Would you like to share?
yeah. Okay, lay it
I have
on
my
us.
own story, but I want to hear yours, yeah?
Yeah, I want to hear yours because
Okay.
I haven't.
You first.
Okay,
He's
so
afraid. He's
all
like, I
right,
don't want to
so
sound crazy.
yes, no. So I've been, I mentioned Hate Street. So one could also say, I got lost in dimensions on Hate Street, and that's why that happened. Because I spent 1 month in San Francisco, was the most amazing time. Anyhow, during these 3 months I was in the US, traveling all around, I was already pretty, health conscious and so on. So I had only been one time for 1 week in the US. So all these supermarkets and stuff was new for me. I was excited to be in Walmart, and see the people and,
Oh my!
and
I haven't heard this.
everybody was so friendly. For me, it was like awesome. I was in a great mood.
A
Anyhow,
Taco Bell, Pizza Hut? No way.
yeah, no, those we skip, but
America.
So any case, because health conscious, so of course I'm gonna look specifically for products that I think I can eat, right? And I know I'm in America, so standards may even be more strange than in Europe. So I want to make sure. So I look at these things. I want to eat salad. So I'm looking at vinegar and so on. I have all the trash, and then you have these things with the worst label ever and looks super like from 1990 or something, and it's called Bragg's apple cider vinegar, if you're familiar with that one. And so I bought it. I bought it not just once. I bought it in different cities, in different supermarkets, and so on. And then a few months later, I'm at home again. This Mandela effect comes around, and I'm of course browsing through it, all the examples with Star Wars and whatever. And then it says, yeah, and there is this vinegar, and it's now called Bragg. There is no apostrophe S anymore. And I'm like, I'm sorry, maybe I don't have a photographic memory, but there's no point for me to make up anything, if it's a brand name, it's a new experience for me. It's not my native language, so I'm going to save it as is. I'm not going to add things or anything. But now they discovered all the bottles, even people that they had it at home, changed to Bragg. All the labels, some people still call it Braggs for whatever remnant reason. Yeah, but there is no evidence anymore that this was ever on the label or ever the name of the company or something. So for me, that was just like my individual present. I was like, oh, how nice, because also if I trust higher self or synchronicity, then I know I'm going to get a signal that will be clear for me, where I don't have to doubt about it. And this would be such a case, because who knows what ever they said in Star Wars. I didn't watch it 100 times. Yeah. But with this was a fresh, clear experience. So that was kind of the proof for me that something there's going on, or I would have to say I'm hallucinating. And maybe everything is a hallucination, but I'm not gonna, denigrate my own perception and understanding just to conform to something. I'm rather gonna follow that and see where it leads. So I'm curious about your story.
Well, I would say that it happens a lot more than I acknowledge it. Just because I go and change so much. I'm pretty radical. Eccentric maybe is a better word. But so there'll be like sections of my life where I just completely change, like my life in Hawaii, all that shit that happened, all that beauty done. And then I'm over here in Virginia. I'm married now. This is my version on a more like very personal, because even though all that shit happened and it's sweet, like you want to know about my past, like I had to like really go through it because I don't relate to any of it. Story, and it is very helpful, like the context, because it is odd, maybe, some of the qualities like being adopted and some of the stuff I've been through. I forget that maybe it's beneficial to share it sometimes. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyways, the Mandela effect for me is like, because I go through such radical changes, it's almost like it didn't even happen. It's so fucking weird. And it sounds like I'm a crazy person, but there's people from my past like that will want to pull me into these memory things. And I can't, I won't, because I don't live there. And I appreciate people that want to do that. And like I had some like exes that like want to go down that, and I'm like, I just can't, it's different. So in that way, and yes, I've had that version of the brags as well, and all the ones that I've seen on YouTube. My husband and I laugh about it because we're like, what the fuck, that I could have sworn it was like that. And I'm spacing on those actual examples right now. But as far as like,
Bears,
yeah,
that's the
that
main
one
one
too.
for me. I was like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
I
I
know,
own
it's
all those
weird.
books, so it's like I feel betrayed. Anyway,
But then like doing so many psychedelics, like
yeah, it's like maybe I
it's not
burnt some
possible to me anymore.
synapses out. Shit.
Yeah, actually, this is a funny story. You're like, so I went to the Dead concert, the Fare Thee Well in Chicago, and I got megadosed by mistake. Was Someone megadosed me.
Onions.
I'll just say it like that.
Yeah.
My understanding was it was like just going to be a little, and then it was known that it was like the fucking deal. And so I sat there like, oh, fuck, I'm in a sea of 60,000 people about to lose my shit. And what the fuck am I going to do? And so the person I was with that actually did the megadosing on me went fucking wacko and was like that guy that was like, I don't know, like the hell, like his face looked like hell. He
Yeah.
was going through the fire of hell. And so I'm like fucking frying. There's Bill
That's the
Murray
best way to
there,
put it.
John
Yeah.
Mayer here. I don't know, fucking every industry person you can imagine. And I'm like, I cannot lose my shit. And because I'm experienced in the psychedelics, I have a pretty strong mental capacity to be like, okay, I'm fucking not gonna die, but I'm almost gonna die. And so riding that edge, you know how to
Yeah.
do it. You find your way back, and I'm like, I am going to have fun tonight. I fucking am going to find my way. And so I did. And meanwhile, I mean, the whole scene at that day of the concert was just peaking. I mean, I bet you everyone was fucking frying.
Oh, for
And
sure. That was a big
all
cultural
of a
moment.
sudden, yeah, right. And so not being like raised as a deadhead, I got on the bus late, I guess.
Sure.
Not late, but you know what I mean. And so during that experience, I actually understood the music in the way that it really, I
Should have
get
been
it.
presented originally. Dude, I
Yeah.
hear it. Keep
And
going.
I
I got
mean,
it. Yeah.
hands Jerry. I hear his recordings and I love his playing and his tailing and all that shit. But that concert, I got it. What was really neat about it was as I was like in heaven and hell and just everything, the intensity of it, you can't put words to it. I'm sorry. You either know or you
Ineffable.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Psychedelics are heavy.
And I saw this huge vortex thing come out, like all this spiral of energy, like orange, and just it was almost like we all saw it together. That's what that's what I felt in that moment. What was crazy was Android Jones made
Oh, he's
art.
the
He
podcast.
was there that night. He
Word.
fucking made that exact image, and I was like, "Oh my
Channeled
god,
it.
we all did see it."
Yeah.
It, and then the concert ended, and
That's when things
there
get
was
weird. Everyone's just like, now what?
it was like, I know. I put my sunglasses on because there was like people on Kauai there that I knew. I'm like, fuck, they're gonna see me like totally not how I want to be seen right now. I just want to be in my like little whatever cave.
Zone. Yeah.
And the level of plastic water bottles, it was like this deep. You couldn't walk without kicking like 7 and 8 per step.
Wow.
I was like, what the fuck? This is so weird. All this music, the vibe, what it, represents, and then you get the opposite
The
of
yin and
the
yang. Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
oh
and
my
like the
gosh, the
employees
dead
like
acid.
cleaning up.
Oh my gosh, modern
Yeah,
American consumer
pretty
capitalism gone
bizarre.
wrong, or
Yeah.
whatever. That's gnarly.
Yeah.
I will. It's funny that you say that because I didn't grow up on the Beatles, at all. Like I mean, culturally, who doesn't know the Beatles, right? But
Right.
my dad was like Talking Heads, Van Halen, like shit like that. So
Yeah.
it's like, all right, cool. I'm
Hmm.
not listening to the Beatles, but one of my first times doing acid, I put on headphones, earbuds, or whatever, and listened to Rubber Soul through Abbey Road, I guess. And I was
Okay.
like, oh, I get it. Like what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. This is made for
Yeah.
being on acid. This is made for headphones. This is made for, it's almost like you can't, I don't want to, if anybody ever wants to dabble with LSD, I suggest doing that. But at least once in your trips, because it's just like, I can't even articulate it now. But it's like, oh, it's a modern gospel through materialist. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like so surreal and high. So I get the epiphanies are hard to describe on the other side of things, but my God, they transform you while you're there. I'm curious. You'd mentioned some Jin Kwon Do, I think you said. What were you doing with that? Yeah.
Yeah,
What is
so
that all about?
that's Bruce Lee's martial arts. So he
Word.
combined the best of everything. And I had this cute Sifu who was the boxer friend. He was a professional boxer, Chinese, and he helped Bruce Lee he added the boxing elements to Jeet Kune Do. So he became my Jeet Kune Do Sifu, and he's so sweet. Like would tear up reminiscing about him. You could just feel the love. And so he would say the philosophy, that Bruce would often talk about. And at that time, it wasn't like integrated in my being. I was hearing it, but it was like a concept. But
Yeah.
in that mushroom trip, I was like, fuck, I get it. And, even in that trip, I was like looking and the wind was talking to me. I was like, fuck cars, fuck this game. I'm out of here. It's all an illusion, like everything that's like people get scared about. And I was like really excited about finding this new sense of expansion and freedom. And the boyfriend at the time freaked out. He's like, "What about family? What about this car?" And so he was just in a completely different space, which ultimately led to like the breakup because I was like, "I'm going that way. That's the way." And he's like,
Right.
"No." So, and that trip was probably one of the most pivotal ones. It was a crossroad for sure, because everything, the dosage, maybe it was like the perfect alignment that day. I don't fucking know, but it was the perfect conditions. And it totally broke me out of it all. And I knew there was more. And during that time, I was really into like questioning everything, 9/11, the conspiracies. I went down every rabbit hole possible. And I don't recommend it, but I don't not recommend it because I feel like as
Parental
you know,
warning. It's like do
you
so
go
knowing
through,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's dark, but I'm okay with that. Like I want to know, but I don't want it to consume me, right? And I find a lot of people consume that information and then it's fucking overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
But with maturity and just I think the mass numbers that it's happening right now where people are just questioning, that's it. Just maybe there's a better way of doing some things. Maybe I could be doing something in a different way. Just even that opening is beautiful. It doesn't have to be like this whole systemic
You don't
cancer.
have to go do Doctor Strange shit necessarily, but it's
Yeah.
the Hierophant card, right? The teacher of universal law. Basically, you get that spiritual knowledge, but teaching others what you know, but awakening to a greater understanding of the world.
Yeah.
That's what happens. I mean,
So
it comes in waves, and you can't force that on people. I don't think, because
Mm.
it just is what it is. Like, in a weird, we've talked about this a bunch, right, Raphael? Where it's like, how would I put it? You can't miss what's meant for you. So in some weird way, it's like if you have a bad trip, that's what the medicine needed. You're going to hit what you needed to hit. And so it's weird, but on the one hand, it's like you can't fuck up, but at the same time, it's like do it wisely, like as much as possible. You
Mhm.
don't want to just be
Shouldn't
like
you have
off
her
the hinge.
chart?
No, she's adopted, bro. So we can't figure that one
Oh,
out.
wow. Now that's
Yeah.
clear. All right. Oh, of course. Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't thinking so far because I was just wondering about Scorpio aspects because, of course, for
Yeah.
me, it's kind of
She's
like
probably Pluto Scorpio.
if through one way or another, and this is, of course, also possible through the mental sphere, but different consciousness states just allow to make the picture a lot clearer. But I
Mhm.
almost want to say if they don't at somehow arrive at the point which you were mentioning, of course, then one needs to reorganize themselves, and this can look different for everyone. But if I haven't gotten there, I'm almost like, well, then you probably didn't get the message yet, So, so
Yeah.
if I want to say it's the way to go, like to realize, all the artificial construct of society, the illusion, the divide and conquer, especially if we want to either for ourselves, but also collectively live in a different way. I want to say this is a fundamental and necessary understanding or breakthrough point.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's part of the hero's journey, right? You got to
Yeah.
break from the tradition and then trailblaze, basically, and then you
Yeah.
kind of come to peace with it all. It's like, well,
Mhm. Yeah.
it takes all kinds. I guess we're all on this weird trip.
Right.
Were you trying to say something? I keep cutting you off.
Just that. No, you no, you weren't.
Word.
Just like coming back to that like peace and it sounds peace and love, but it's so true. It's fucking true. Like it's either there or it ain't. You can't fake that shit.
Yeah.
And one thing that's clear for me in this life is I want to be good at that. It's important because I spill that into the people I spend time with, into the world, into my projects. So that clarity is important. And I really believe that's my time on Kauai, was to like polish, grind, face in the mud, buried, um, that death, rebirth, that symbolism of that whole transformation. So to answer that question about Kauai, that's what it was. I feel like I grew up there. And I also had a child there. So, when you have a child, it really forces you to fucking look at some shit. My parents are amazing people. They fucking adopted kids. They did not have to. That's a very generous and beautiful thing. It was bumpy, I think a lot of our parents did the best they could. And so there were some things that I had to unravel from, because I do believe in ancestral lineage. I don't know it completely because of the mystery of my adoption, but I have like my adopted parents, right? And then I have my birth parents and all that. So that's a lot of ancestral information, right? Known and unknown. I know more about my adopted parents than birth, but it's there. I know it is. And so I don't know where I was going with this, but basically
Kauai.
Kauai. Yeah, Kauai was me unraveling what I needed to, fucking learning hard ass lessons, deception, choosing the right people, the consequences of my decisions, but also perfecting and finding my voice. I don't know if you knew this, but I did not sing. I had one odd ecstasy trip in LA, and I started singing, and I was like, what the heck? That came out of me. And my boyfriend at the time was like tearing. He's like, oh my God. And then that was it. There was no more singing. And I'm like, whoa, it's in there. It's in there somewhere. What happened? And so then fast forward to the Kauai years, it was like really, it was really blocked, the throat chakra, speaking my truth. I mean, even now, like speaking with you, this would not have happened back then. I would have been fucking nervous, sweating, how to go to the bathroom, all those nervous ticks.
That
I would have
Fare
been
Thee
a
Well
mess.
tour really kind of set you up for never being nervous again, I
I guess
think.
so.
You're like, you're never
Yeah,
gonna
it's like,
sweat
yeah,
the apocalypse, whatever. It's like I've
I
been
know,
there.
right?
I get it.
But
So okay, we could start shifting gears. I appreciate you telling us all about your stuff. I mean, now you're in Virginia, you're married, your daughter's
Mhm.
driving. So you play the
I married
ukulele.
my friend. Yes,
What?
that's
Okay,
important.
well, do you want to elaborate on that? How
Well,
does
I've
that
been
work?
friends with him for like
Hot
8, 9
minute.
years. 9
Okay.
years.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, I think that's the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Be
Yeah.
friends with someone for a really long time, because you really, there's like this reverence and trust, and like you, it takes time to learn someone. As soon as you like jump in, not many people have the maturity, the emotional maturity, or the awareness to know, okay, this, all this family systems, fucking, everything that comes into that pot will blow any relationship out, right? So that's all I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say. But my husband has been such a great friend over the years, and I was like, let's just fucking try, like,
It
and
was your suggestion? Were you like, let's
it
put a ring
was,
on it? Okay.
and all the relationships that failed for me, I did not
Led to
pursue.
this.
They pursued me, right?
Okay.
This is
Okay. So
the
you
first
switched the
one that I,
gears.
yeah, and it
All
worked.
right. And it
Just
worked.
saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
It did.
Ace of Wands. Go. Don't wait. Catch the tiger by its tail. So you started singing at one point on E and didn't do it again.
Yep.
But because I mean, I'm not sure how you like walk us through your kind of artistic mode here. Shifting gears kind of completely.
Yeah.
You sing, you produce, you play ukulele. I mean, I was actually surprised at the quality. Sounds
Oh,
weird,
thanks.
maybe, but I was like, oh, she knows what she's doing, and this sounds good. Like this is not just passable. Like you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
this sounds
oh, wow,
good.
thanks. All right,
Yeah, no, I
cool.
don't fluff. So it's like aesthetically quality. I'm a reverb junkie, so I like how much reverb you use.
Yeah.
I was just like, yes, things like Beach House and things like
Okay.
Air and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Use a lot of reverb. So yeah, kind of walk us through the Diamond Lightning kind of modality. How
Mhm.
did you come up with this idea? What
Yeah.
incarnations? I mean, you were a DJ, but how did you
Yeah.
become more of an artist doing your thing now?
All right. I've always been an artist, but more so business wise, I guess, if that's the right way to with Diamond Lightning, because I really love to work for myself. Timing's very important for me. Like being my own boss is really important for me, because the spaciousness that I actually require to create. I mean, I need like total space, emptiness, and then
Mm,
it just, I don't even, there's no effort. It just
mhm,
comes through, right? Um, and so the company Diamond Lightning is based from Vajrayana Buddhism, which is not a
mm,
religion, it's a practice. It's a 5 elements tantric practice, right? Which I love the practices because it uses visualization and quantum mechanics. It's more like science than religion. So I vibe with that. And Vajrayana is thunderbolt lightning path, right? You get hit with truth.
Raiden.
People, yeah, you meet people. So the company was based on and it's more me right now, but it will grow to
Word.
much more. But I'm just finding my bearings as a creator and a business owner. It's an interesting
It's a
duo.
new phase. Yeah.
Yeah, and so growing in that way, but the intent, the seed of that company is to only bring projects that have that element in it. So that's Diamond Lightning,
Word.
based from Vajrayana. Yeah. And
Before we diverge from Vajrayana, kind of go into
mhm.
that a little because I could be tripping, Raphael. We had Tashi Mannix on. He was a Tibetan Buddhist. I don't know if that's the Vajrayana flavor.
I believe we had Seba on, and he does Vajrayana like exercises, and yeah, this is like the cool stuff. Where also usually I think those are the systems which have the most sound foundation in terms of neutrality, non-judgmental, also somehow a scientific approach, but not excluding the other world, but actually
Yes.
including it, like with metaphysics. So these are usually the good ones, if
Yeah.
I'm in my book, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, just from tangible experience, I'm not gonna pretend I'm like totally versed in it. But when I
Whatever.
practice
Yeah.
it, I fucking feel it and
Mm,
things move in a better
word.
way and it's clearer. And so I've tried every fucking thing. I don't know if I mean, I've tried Vipassana, ayahuasca, of course, shrooms, blah, 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 all the psychedelics. And oh yeah, I said Vipassana. So that particular meditation form works for me. you know, it's measurable, completely measurable. Whereas, I don't know, like I've tried a lot of other meditation approaches, and it just, whatever.
Didn't shift you up to fourth gear quite the same.
No.
It's interesting that you say Vipassana, because I've been for like years being, and I haven't done ayahuasca. We're always talking about this. It's weird because
Vipassana's
on the one
great.
hand, I just started it yesterday. Well, started it.
Oh,
I
cool.
want to go to do a 10-day thing, but I don't really particularly. We don't have to go down this rabbit hole if you don't want. I don't want to get jabbed. And a lot of these places are like COVID vax
What?
mandatory.
They make
Yeah.
you? What?
Well, they're like, show
Oh
us your proof, and I'm
no.
like, well, I'm good. So I went on
Oh,
YouTube and I watched yesterday, ironically, day 1 of 10 of I guess the founder of it, kind of going through
mhm.
it, and there
Cuenca?
was a clarity. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like follow your breath. I mean, I'm not saying this is the way. Oh my god, everybody do this, but it's just like,
Mhm.
holy cow, we are. That combined with having watched Rango with my nana the other day. Rango is a classic fucking movie. If you haven't seen it, it's
Nana
like
is your grandma?
yeah. I'm here
Oh,
right now
sweet.
in Fairhope with her. Yeah, she's great. But she's a hardcore Christian. I'm a Christian technically, but in any event, I'm like,
Too.
we're listening to Jordan Peterson stuff, so it's like
Yeah,
kind of
I
Jungian
love it.
breakdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
His old stuff's great. His new stuff I'm not against, but it's getting more politicized, I guess is the best way to put it. And he's kind
He's
of
got a lot of pressure
identifying.
on him. He's got
Yeah, he's the
cool.
mouthpiece for like the reasonable right, or however you want to put that. So it's
I
like,
know.
good luck, bro.
Oh
Good luck.
man.
But we're
It's
watching his maps of meaning stuff, like his Psych 434
okay.
class. In any event,
Mhm.
between the Jungian kind of like, oh my god, we're crazy monkeys coming up with all sorts of dreams, and then Rango, and then the Vipassana, like yesterday
Yeah.
and today have been very lucid. Yesterday more so,
Mm.
but just like where it's just like, whoa, like I don't know. It feels like it was a Virgo full moon. Let's be real. It
Yeah.
feels just like leveled up.
Right.
And maybe I'm not gonna
Yeah, it was
fucking
strong.
self
I was up
sabotage
late.
the way. Were you?
Yeah. It
See,
had
now
me
I wish
awake.
I knew what your fucking chart was. It's like, oh, because it wouldn't surprise me if you, because I don't know. I don't want to even make guesses. You're intellectual and savvy, but you're grounded. So it's like, I'm sure. See, I don't know you well enough. I'm sure you've got water, fire, earth, all of it. What
I'm
are the 5
sure
elements in that model anyway? By the way,
earth, fire, water, air. Did I
space.
say and space? Yeah, and
Yeah,
space is my favorite because that's where it all is, you know, and it's overlooked often.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're
So
a musician, so it's like the note tapping, but like without the gaps.
yeah,
It's
and
not contextual.
And just a pro tip, space, I would say the translation for it is actually unconditional love.
oh,
So
I love that.
that's the beauty,
Yeah.
and of course all other elements or whatever, are derived from that. And yeah.
So tell us a little about your production stuff, your ook production
Okay.
singing, whichever. I mean, I listened to. I'm totally gonna space the call. I think is the title of the track. I was like,
Yeah.
this is great. Then I heard
Oh,
your
cool.
ukulele thing with just you and singing, and I was like, this is it. Actually, ironically, now that you said you're into the Dead a little, not like a Dead head, but it's like something about it didn't remind me of Ripple exactly. It wasn't
Oh,
quite like I
that's
wasn't
cute.
like, oh my god, this is a Ripple cover,
Mhm.
but I was like, it had a very sincere kind of Garcia vibe. I don't know how to put it. It
No,
was
he
very
was
kind of
into
just chill.
Vajrayana.
Oh, was he? Oh shit. Okay,
Yeah,
it's all coming full
yeah.
circle.
I know, isn't it? And, I would have loved to, like, witness him live. Maybe I did in a if past lives are real, but yeah, the music, so on Kauai, as I moved there and I had this baby and I was fucking trying to find myself as a mom now, I learned Hawaiian chants, and those
Mm,
really opened, my throat because it was like a practical approach. Like, I'm not the kind of singer that's like, "Oh, listen to me," you know,
Mariah
and I
Carey.
don't have a
Yeah.
belty voice. I'm not
Yeah.
technically, polished, and I don't want to be. I want to be as natural and honest as whatever this is, right?
Mm,
So the Hawaiian chants kind of wipe that because there's a certain I guess tonal technique. But if you do it right, you move energy. And so I don't know if you experience it on Oahu, but on Kauai, it is so spirited. I had no idea how fucking tuned into I am into that world, into the unseen spirit world until I lived there because they're fucking this shit all over. And it'll freak you out if you're maybe not grounded in a practice. So what I would find, like I would hike the Nepali Coast Trail alone at night. I mean, actually, I should share a few of my experiences on that trail. I hiked it barefoot. Horrible.
that's a
My
bad idea.
shoes
Yeah.
broke. I know, my shoes broke, and I'm like, "I'm just gonna fucking do it. I've heard people can do it. I'm gonna go slow." I was, like, totally
Rite of
brutally
passage
swore.
of death.
Oh my god, that. And but the cool thing was I saw my first night rainbow, and I had the trail all to myself. But around 6 Mile, I started to sense this like really negative spirit. Kind of freaked me out. I'm like, nope, not going there. And so I started chanting in Hawaiian.
Mm.
And it works. It worked for me. You know,
Mm.
it gets you out of the mind, which helps. And then sonically, whatever it does, and that's what I loved about learning a little bit of the Hawaiian culture is the one before, you know, the missionaries. They were very connected to the elements and to the spirits, you know. And I have a kumu, and she taught
A
me
teacher
chant.
for you laymen.
Yeah, thank you. And
I gotcha.
beautiful, powerful. I mean, she can make thunder come from her chanting and drumming. So,
Is she still in
anyways,
Kauai?
yeah, and we still like, you know, I love and miss her. If I stayed, I would still be learning from her, but it the my journey on Kauai was to literally be there for that time, grow,
Mm.
and then be out in the world. I knew
Mm.
that for sure. And it's almost like if I stayed there, it's like a baby staying in the womb, like, you know,
Mhm.
I'm not here to just have like comfort or whatever. Not that the island's comfortable. It's it's paradise, but it fucking has its stuff. Don't don't be mistaken about that. But yeah, so the voice came out and then I started to want I was always a DJ. I learned drum and bass in LA on the records, ones and twos.
Okay, so that makes
Then
more sense to me because it's
yeah,
like you haven't dropped like I play
yeah,
guitar and that's like what I do. You play electronic music. So
yeah.
because when you
But
with
I
your production, I
also
was like, this is solid. Like, oh
oh
shit.
cool.
So that makes sense now. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
she's
And
done
I have a
this not to
mentor.
just who?
Yeah.
Well,
Ben. Yeah. Ben
Ben,
and
shout out Ben. Good
yeah,
job.
and, I also played the clarinet as a kid and tinkered on the piano, so it's always been around.
Right.
I was pretty good at the clarinet, and I think that also helped with the voice now. I don't know how, but just muscular, you know, awareness of the air in the space in the mouth.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, but yeah, so then I started to feel like drawn to using the voice more, singing, but I was getting all this opposition from around, like some of the people I was around. It was weird. Like it was almost like I was
Haters.
in the twilight zone. Yeah, it was like, what is it? Is it like, am I going crazy? Like, what's going on? So I was very curious of, okay, something's happening. And so I had a really cool experience in Colorado where I felt very connected to the land. And it was like, oh, you're going to use your voice. I don't know what that means. And I'm not going to pretend to know. All I know is it could be speaking, singing. All I'm going to do is throw everything at the fire to be in service to whatever the fuck it is. I don't know
Mm.
what it is, but that's why I also created that company to just help be a vehicle to be to try anything and
It's a lightning
everything.
rod. It's like whatever's
Yeah.
gonna strike is gonna strike here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
Gotcha.
just create the conditions and the environment for best, you know, highest outcome. So that's all I've been doing over the years. But Kauai was definitely spiritual growth and just being pummeled. I was like, "Can I just have some air?" Oh my god. It was just like one wave after another symbolically. And so the music I was DJing still, doing festivals. It was really fun, but it was a little drug ridden and I wasn't
Mm.
quite feeling it. So I went into ecstatic dances. Do you know about those?
I haven't been to
Yeah.
one, but I get the gist. Yeah, it's like
Yeah. It's
it isn't drug free
sober.
necessarily. Okay, is it necessarily everyone's like nobody's tripping here, or is it like this one
Yeah.
guy with bugged eyes and he's like, oh, he's
But
let Jimmy do his thing, but we're all sober here.
yeah,
The idea is
that's
like
how
it's a natural high, right? Ecstatic dance.
yeah. Yeah, and I love that because you know, coming from doing everything, right, to
Mm.
wanting to not need anything, to still reach higher states of awareness, that was like, "We can do it. We're capable, so let's do it." So that was one way I tried during those years, and then the DJing was, like, fun and all, but then it starts to get a little boring for me at the time
Right.
because, I wanted to there's all this music inside, I couldn't get it out, I needed to get it out. So I use Ableton Live. Do you use
No, I
uh,
don't, dude. I'm a guitarist, and I'm like,
okay,
my brother does that stuff more. And he gave me Ableton
okay,
Live at one
cool.
point. I was like, I am not a programmer. What the? This is
Right,
deep. Like, I'm not trying to fuck with this.
yeah.
But yes, it's a great little toolbox if you know what you're doing.
Mhm. Yeah, I love it, and I also love just being the person by the fire playing and tinkering and singing, so it's nice to be
Mm,
able to do both, but
mhm.
I learned, Ableton because I wanted to produce my own stuff. I'm
Yeah,
very sensitive to, like, people and big egos, in particular, and in music, as you know, it's, like, fucking a lot of big egos. I'm
can be.
I'm not
Yeah.
versed, I don't want to be, like, technically sound like I know what the fuck I'm doing and I know this and I know that because I just do music by feeling. It's like painting,
Yeah, yeah.
paint. And so I like that that's the natural way that I can express and let the music just happen,
That's what's
and
up.
it does. It works for me that way. But I have to learn the technical side of Ableton, so that's why I had a mentor and, sharpening that tool.
It pays. I mean, I'm actually at kind of a fork in that on a multiple levels where it's like, okay, just because you're latently good at something, there's kind of a, how would I put this? There's so many levels. To be able to express yourself fully is kind of the idea, and then
Mhm,
if you have a higher vocabulary or understanding of the techniques, you don't necessarily have to go to art school to be a great artist, but knowing how to make your canvas. You see, it's like that kind of thing. It's just like
mhm.
it gives you more
Yeah,
control and power, ultimately,
right.
alchemical control or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, like you were saying, if you don't know how to do these things, like you're kind of at it's almost like a pachinko or whatever. Like you're a little ball and you have this idea, and then it starts going off into all these directions. And by the time it comes to an end result, it still can be great. Actually, there's a good documentary about the Beatles. I think Peter Jackson made it, and it's just them fucking
Oh,
around
yeah.
in
I
in the
saw it.
end.
It's
Yeah, okay.
great.
So you see, he's like coming up with
All their
songs.
drama.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're humans. Who'd have thought?
Oh my god,
Um,
Yoko and her singing, oh my
Dude, I was like,
god.
George, Jesus Christ, George, get it
I know,
together. I thought
I
he was way
know,
more
he's
chill. He's just like, I'm
sensitive.
out of here. Fuck this. Yeah. It's just like, bro, you're a water sign. I get it. But I don't even know. I know what Paul's a Gemini and John was a
Okay,
Libra.
okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
air signs kind of playing off each other, and the other two are
right.
just kind of like crazy guys. But
And
anyway, say again.
they were friends for a long time, like, their connection was deep. Yeah.
Yeah, sincere.
And that's what
But
I
I
also find, like, people that make music, they don't I mean, that's just as important as technique. Actually, it's more important, in my opinion,
You
than
mean
technique.
chemistry?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
the way the synergy because for me, I'm space, right? I need the space, and I need to be around people that know how to give space and receive space,
Hmm.
and it works. It works like fucking a dream, right? And then you get one person that thinks they know it all and it has to be this way, and it just completely dismantles the whole magic of that moment, right? And
Yeah.
so, but people with that synergy, like for instance, Billie Eilish and Phineas, I like to use them as an example. Are
Okay.
you familiar with her or
I know
his?
her, and I don't know him, and then I
Okay.
have no clue. I'm so not up on the modern times like that. So
Their
fill me in.
production-wise, it's
Okay.
fascinating. I love to listen my daughter loves Billy, first of all, so we have this thing
Word.
already. But if you listen to the music, which he helps produce with her,
Is there a specific
there
song that we should like go home and check
um,
out for this idea?
let me think about it. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot there.
Um,
Like fuck it.
E
Billie
th
Eilish and
what I
Phineas.
love about them is they are not trying to be perfect. They add a lot of, unique sounds from field recording. But their connection is what comes through the music. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
technically, it's all there. It's high polished, it's unique pop, right? But underneath it, it's their really deep developed connection that comes
Mm.
through. And,
The
it's
fifth
awesome.
element,
Yeah,
spirit or
yeah,
whatever.
it's
Yeah, I
all
guess you. It's weird because
yeah,
you can have all
that
the
was
thing. You can have Frankenstein, but without the electricity, it's just
yeah,
meat. So that's
yeah.
a good example, I guess. I'll have to check them out because I know her thing where she was, driving a go kart video a few years ago. It's like I'm just not up on her. I
It's a
fell off. I
younger
fell
generation.
off.
It's a bunch
Yeah,
of teenage girls. I took my daughter to the concert and I was like, "Oh my god, it's so crazy how people get crazy for people." It's
it
it's
is
like
bizarre.
it is. I'm like,
It's like
"Wow."
a
I just
Beatlemania, but for like TikTokers, basically
exactly,
female TikTokers.
exactly. You're like, people are losing their shit. Like, wow, that's
That's where it gets hard. So not hard, but it's like people become conduits for archetypes, and then they get not
Mhm.
usurped, that's too strong a word, but they get like handled into certain
Mhm.
domains. And
Mhm.
then I guess I don't even know the guy's name, Chris Smith or something. Somebody the other day, just politics, and it's not even
Mhm.
politics. Oh my gosh, politics is part of music and art. I get it, but
Ugh,
at some
I
point, it
know.
seems like there's kind of a cultural reprogramming happening
Mhm.
that isn't. If only they had grown up in the 90s is all I think. It's just like they don't get it. They're missing something. Something essential is not happening here. It's like it's tricky. And I don't want to be like, "Nah, you kids." Like, I mean, I guess I'm almost 40, so I could just be old. But
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah,
Well, we
once
had
you start hitting it,
analog, right?
that's part of it maybe, but it
Yeah,
feels like I don't even know. Maybe it was just like less of a there might be consequences that we just don't even know
I
sociologically
know.
obviously, but psychologically to just being internet connected from birth.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
your
Right.
daughter's been aware
Yeah.
of an internet since
Yeah.
ever, so it's like that might change the game of the neuro soup that she's dealing with.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't want to one position it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's geek out about like what are your favorite and least favorite. You were saying that you like making space and being your own
Mhm.
producer. How hard was doing Ableton? I mean, is that like a huge
Oh,
learning
man.
curve?
So I'm
It
still
seems like
learning
a
it. I don't
yeah.
even I'm not even at the pace that some of my peers. Like, I have a lot of peers that make, bass music.
Mm,
They're really talented. So I love the underground. I've always like drum and bass is underground. After I did that whole, like, electronic music, I went kind of to the underground. So I appreciate both elements, and I also like to be palatable for as many people, so there's, like, both sides to it. But as far as like I started Ableton DJing
right.
lightly, and that's like bare minimal,
Because they have
right?
Ableton Live, which is like if you want to fuck
Mhm.
with the DJ live thing, here you go. I mean,
Yeah, so
it's
that's
made for DJs too. Go ahead.
yeah, and so I loved that you could use it for that, but also for live performance and recording, like, all in one.
Mm,
So because, everyone's like, "Oh, Pro Tools, da 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 da." I'm like, "Whatever." So I wanna learn something that's more versatile, and because it's a German company and they're always innovating, I felt like, they're always growing and changing, and improving in I think, in bigger leaps than another company.
So just to throw out another reference there, this is apparently a spin-off company from Ableton, if I understood it correctly, and they're called Bitwig. And I recently
Bitwig.
checked out their production system, and they're different, of course. And I used Ableton also 10 years ago or something, or played around with it rather. But yeah, that one is also interesting and also has decent prices. So because I don't know about the Pro Tool stuff and so on, but with like equipment and software, it can
Right.
also quickly start to stack up a lot.
Yeah. Pro Tools to me is like that set stuck way of the music industry, and I just don't really cater to any of that. And I don't really the business side. It's like the mob, I don't touch it.
totally. Yeah.
Not interested. I'm not here to be do that. I don't know what it is, honestly. I don't have the answers. I'm just doing what I'm doing, and that's all.
Yeah.
So
It seems like there's a more DIY. Like it's professional, but it's DIY with the Ableton stuff.
yeah.
But I'm speaking way out of my element when I can, it's like yes, Pro Tools became kind of like I don't know what like DVD instead of Blu-ray. It's kind of like that. It's like technological kind
Right.
of like blocking happened, and I'm just sitting here playing guitars. I don't care. And now my brother's got like 200 songs. Like shit, I should have probably because I said I was going to say this earlier, and I totally spaced. It doesn't matter much, but basically we moved to Hawaii. I started getting into alcohol and just like spiraled out. And he's a drummer, and he's like, "You're not doing your part. I guess I'll go learn how to record and program and stuff." So now
That's great.
it's weird because on my I'm like, shit, that's our paths split at a level, and he took the high road, man, and I took the low road. Shit. Um.
But you still play.
So I still play a little. Yeah, no, I play more electric, and I think you've seen like a live with an acoustic.
Mhm.
I'll send you some songs sometime of my brother and I jamming. It's fun. I
Oh,
mean, it's like
cool.
what I do, so I'm like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do. But at the same time, it gets tricky. It's
I'll
almost
say this
like
again, Jim is an absolute virtuoso on the guitar. There's some jams and there's some like old recording with his brother, and you listen to it and you're like, what is this?
there's
Cool.
synergy. What she's
It's
talking about because
just
we're both Geminis, so it's
Yeah.
like that space happens. Anyway, like I said, I'll send you some stuff.
And
But
as siblings, you've been together for so long, that's irreplaceable. You can't I mean, you get 2 strangers with egos and musical talent, and it could totally flop, because there's no compatibility. That's
well,
cool.
it
Does
sounds
your brother
weird, but
live on Oahu still, or is he
no, we moved back after a year and a half,
okay.
and basically came out to Colorado, grew weed for a while. He's still in Colorado. He is actually a senator's assistant right now, a U.S.
Oh, wow.
senator, I guess.
Okay.
And his wife is pregnant and she's going to be a doctor. So he's
Wow.
still like, hey, let's play music maybe, but I don't want to tour. Let's do like what Air does and put out an album every now and then and fuck with it or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's going to have a kid soon. So I'm like, all right, we'll see.
Right.
Long story short, and I'll make this brief. It seems like, and this sounds so bizarre, but I guess it's kind of what you're saying. It seems like, and I would say it's because we're both air signs, but it's like a certain chemistry creates another entity almost is the best way to put it. And that is like the Holy Spirit, if you want to put it that way, between the
is.
things. So
Yeah.
it lubricates and it just becomes
Mhm.
like you can't make this shit up. It's like magical. I mean, is the best way to put it. So I love
Is.
drugs, but I like playing music with my brother as much as drugs. So it's like, or psychedelics. So anyway, what were we talking about before I went bullshit on my shit? I'm just kind of curious. Yeah. So you use Pro Tools. What are some? Because the call, like, it's hard to explain. It had a all your songs, especially. I mean, I only listened to 2 or 3, but it was like approachable, but still exotic. So
Okay.
it was like, how would I put it? It felt like hip. Like I can tell that you have I guess this sounds weird. Yes, you probably do have a 15-year-old daughter who's keeping you up on like the sounds in a weird way. Plus, you're like into DJing and stuff.
Oh,
So it's
that's
like,
really good.
of course, you're sounding, experimental, but not so much that it's like,
Yeah.
avant-garde beyond reason. It's like
Right.
it's you're playing with forms instead of being
Mhm.
dictated by them. But it also had this like weird, I won't say country or folk, because country in a Hawaiian sense, like country city,
Yeah.
it felt like you have this spirit in it that was very um songwriter, a singer story songwriter thing. And it wasn't like, American Pie lyrics where you're going through this whole crazy story or something. um but it felt like it was, I don't know, people should check it out. It was good. I mean, I was surprised. I was happily surprised because I was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Cool.
But it had a lot of, I mean, that's so vague. It had a lot of elements that I wasn't expecting. It's professional and polished, but it had
Mhm.
room and slip in it enough where
Mhm.
it's like authentic and heart. It's not just like Mariah Carey, Take 34, or whatever
Right.
like that. It felt like kind of like, all right, I'm in a room by myself and there's candles and we're really kind of channeling this, or that kind of energy. More magical is maybe a weird
Yeah.
word, but more magical than some
Well,
music I'd
thank you.
heard.
I appreciate that
For
as
sure. For sure.
that you hear that. Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of songs I haven't gotten out yet, and so
You
this
sound like my
year is all.
brother. It's like,
Yeah,
fuck
I
you
know.
guys and all your sketches. Put it in a place, even if it's unfinished. It's like,
I know.
I'm gonna make
I'm
a
actually
documentary about the
finally
people who don't finish their shit. It's like, hey, just go through it. Da Vinci had all these sketches, right? I mean, we all know this big stuff, but it's like, oh my god, there's a helicopter, and he didn't show anybody. And it's like, it's like, what the fuck, bro? Like, it doesn't have to be built yet. Just show people what
It's
you're doing.
true. I know. My mentor used to say shit like that, like how selfish. Oh,
Well, that's the guilt trip where it's like the world needs what you have. I mean, that's
I
maybe
know.
that could be a positive motivator, right? Where you're like, there's things in me that have to be called out through me, and that's the only
Yeah,
means by which they'll be called, or
yeah.
whatever.
And maybe
It's a
if
little,
I do that, someone else will do that.
yeah,
The
show
more
up,
we do that,
and
maybe we'll just all be like a nicer race.
I hope. I mean,
Yeah.
if we all show up to our highest potential and like kind of let live
Yeah.
and let live. I mean, I'm not even a high
Yes,
hippie,
that's my
right now, but it's
motto.
like, what, live and let
Live and
live.
let live. Yeah. It's so, like,
Well,
simple and easy, like, just
even though we don't know your actual astrology, you are, according to your birth certificate or whatever, a Libra. So it's very
yeah,
Libran of you to be,
yeah,
balanced. You're like, you know what, give and take and yin and yang
yeah,
and that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
So, anyway, anything you want to talk about your music and kind of production? Because I don't produce. My brother does. Maybe Raphael did. I'm more of an organic, like a player, right? I don't like produce.
Me too,
But okay, yeah,
me too.
talk about it, geek.
I will play music for hours, just by myself in my studio, and then when I go to record, it's a whole fucking different thing, and
It's a head
so
trip. Do you
it's
okay, so how do you approach that? Because to me, it feels like one thing is like in the flow, but then how would I put it? It's like being praying in the corner, and you're like, "Dear Jesus, thank you for the day," and all this stuff, and then versus going to like, I don't know, the Vatican. Because I've been to a
oh,
studio once. It's like time to
yeah,
perform, time to be on, and it's like,
right, right.
this is so weird.
Yeah. So, I think just playing music playfully is always good, I'm sure that's how you feel too. Just kinda keeps things, toned. it's like a muscle, but also it creates the conditions, I believe, for other creative elements to come through. And so I'll
Yeah.
find myself circling through songs and then being like, oh, record that one, it's ready. I just kind of follow my instinct completely. I don't have rules or form, but recording it onto Ableton is a totally different thing, and it's guaranteed right when I'm like deciding to, the opposition, like something will happen, something will break, something
Power
will
outage. Damn it.
pull my energy over here, the dog will throw up. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, it's like clockwork, right? So now it's a joke to me. I used to kind of take it more serious, like, I'm just want to record. And now it's like, there it is. There it is. So I've learned to like overcome the obstacles, because there are. And I think that's huge. Especially with the tech side. So I've learned to love the recording aspect, but what I love more is the editing. Like
Okay.
it like gets my little nerdy side where I'm like, computer grease face for hours, like editing and tailoring and shaping sounds for like hours until I'm like, I gotta go to bed. This is like probably not, I'm making the song worse. So
The
I
idea
like,
of Ed from Cowboy Bebop came to mind, which is like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I don't know if you
So
did that show. It's a great show. Anyway, so editing. I mean, that's where kind of I think now that you say it, that's some of the stuff I liked most about the call. I think was the one with it was highly edited. I mean, not
mhm,
highly to the point of like absurdity, but it was like, oh shit, she's doing a tremolo here, and what
yeah.
you're messing with things. I mean, it's
Mhm,
like there's fine painting or whatever, and then like graffiti maybe is like spontaneous kind of street stuff, and this
yeah,
felt like somewhere in between where it's like
yeah,
thoughtful spontaneity.
right.
uh it was
Yeah, that
cool
was
hearing
actually
kind
my
of the
first
effects.
one. So it's a little messy, but I'll hear it every once in a while and go like, I'm still content. Like, I could be a perfectionist, but I've relaxed, and don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, I still do
You still give
like,
a shit. Yeah, I
but
get
I
you.
still give a shit, but I also know when to let go. Whereas before it's like I'd never put anything out because it wasn't perfect enough, and that's just insane. It's just
Yeah.
stupid. So I don't do that anymore. But that one was funny because my mentor Ben, he like has us whip out a song every time, every session. And so like clockwork, right when I was about to render the track, it like all this shit changed and it sounded so weird. And it was like 4 a.m. The deadline's due, and I'm like greasy. I'm like, what the fuck? Why doesn't the tech like me? The elves are at it. And so it's even though it sounds like a complaint, it's part of the process, and I actually really do love it. It's from start to finish, and then you like let the song go. It's no longer it's it's out there. It's gone. It's not yours.
In
It's
the
I love
ethers,
that.
part of the
Yeah, I love
Akash
that.
now, man.
Mhm.
Shit, there it
Yeah.
is. So, all right. So I've heard you're like kind of first go with technical glitches, but you still
Mhm,
survived the ride. Eddie would go kind of thing. You lived, I
mhm.
guess. What's a track when we're done with this? I'll go listen to some more. What's the track where you're like, this is what I want to be known, not known for, but it's like, where's the direct? Because they're so diverse. I mean, but
Mhm.
what's one that you would suggest? I guess
Oh, for someone to
for
listen.
me.
Oh, for you. Oh,
Yeah, for
wait, of
everybody should check this shit
mine
out.
or
Go to
for
your
any.
YouTube, yeah, and your
Oh.
SoundCloud. That's where all this is.
I like Ride or Die because I love the
Okay,
video too. I went to White Sands and just like played around, and I love the video and the music. For me, it's both. So I edit the videos because
that's
I
on the
love that
sand
as
dune. I
well.
did see that. I saw the
Yeah.
video. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I
Was that
see music.
uncomfortable at the end? Were you like, God, there's sand everywhere. What have I done?
I love it. I roll
Okay.
in sand. On Kauai, I would
I saw
literally
the video.
roll
Yeah.
in and, like, it's everywhere, and it's like crystal. It's like it's healing. It feels so
Charging.
fucking.
Yeah.
I did a lot of music shows and brought people. I had them rolling in the sand. They're like, "What do we do here?" Because 'Cause they're just so excited to be in Hawaii, right? And so you're like you take them to a special beach. This is Peridot, like, this is green everywhere, and it's magical, and it is roll around it, and they're like laughing like kids. It's so beautiful. And just that element, I think that's another beautiful thing about that island is it brought out like that playfulness in me. I got really serious because I was wounded and traumatized and fucking broken or whatever. And that island, through the healing process and through my devotion to fucking dismantling and rebuilding, you find your playfulness, and it's like the
Mm.
most fucking golden thing. Like, that's so important. I don't think people play enough, whether it's music, whether it's fucking Uno cards or a video game or whatever the fuck the play is. We need to play more, and let that side of us express. So, yeah. Oh, Ride or Die. I would
Ride or
recommend that.
Die.
And then I'm in the midst of recording my first album, which is more,
Full length.
yeah, from start to finish. Most likely acoustic folk style. And then the second
Word.
album is gonna be electronic. Because I have friends that are boomers and I have
Yeah.
friends that are like Gen Zers.
Well, you do
And
both
so,
well, so don't just do
yeah,
both. Libra
I
shit,
want
right?
to. I love it.
Offer both plates.
It's not either or, it's both, right? And then,
Exactly.
and let it evolve, but right now I gotta get these songs out. They're fucking been in there for like over a decade. I'm like, these need to come
Hey,
out now.
call this a kick
So,
in the butt. It's like,
yeah,
yo, dude, you got some stuff to do. Okay.
yeah,
Hey, her daughter, I forgot her name, but it's not Anastasia or
Anamika.
whatever. Yeah, I was like, I know what it wasn't gonna be.
Yeah,
Tell your mom to do it.
yeah.
No, I'm not in exactly the same place, but it's like, hey, what are we waiting for? Like
I know.
the
No,
perfect
it's
conditions. It
true.
doesn't. There
I
are
know.
no perfect
There
conditions.
are
It's just
none.
the
I
best.
know.
It's your mindset.
It is.
But it sounds like you're in a pretty healthy place mentally.
Yeah, for
You're not
sure.
like wearing 6 masks and all this shit right now. So
No.
I think you're doing okay. Like, you're chill. So you got to get on
Mhm.
it. In a sense, don't be Captain Von Trapp on yourself, but
Yeah,
you know, the time is now, right?
exactly. And, I'm turning either 42 or 43 this year.
Depending.
And, I heard that around 42, women, like, really, like, go full fire. I
Mm.
feel it. I feel like there's something where, like, I overthought so much when I was younger, and I wasn't sure, and pretty insecure. Like, I didn't have, um that's why I got mentors and stuff, and to help, like, strengthen those mental muscles, because that's all it is just changing the conversation in your head, and literally it's magic. It's that simple. And so I had a lot of like bogey thought forms that were kind of hindering me from either sharing, from delivering, from
What was the worst one? What's the ghost of your like creative past where you're like, fuck that. That really held me down. I'm just curious. Maybe you
I
don't
did
have
not
one off the
show
top of your
up
head.
a lot. Like, I got thrown the ball and I just froze. I mean, it's countless times. And it became so painful where you're like, I know I could have, you know, done this or shared that or played the song or um and so that really forced me to no, it has nothing to do with you, right? Like the ego.
Mm,
And so it's something beyond, maybe. But you just got to get out of your own way. And that was my problem. I was just in my own way all the fucking
mm.
time with my head, um, with just like with Vipassana, right? What I like about that is it helps you to be aware with your nervous system and triggers and sensations, bad or good, and not to connect or
It's just a
attach to either.
happening. Just a
Yeah,
happening.
just to
Yeah.
observe. And even that, you're like, whoa. It's crazy. I love hearing about that and learning about how our mind works. I mean, with the limited perception that we have right now, right? But even so, like, let's say you hear this and it triggers a memory of a trauma. Like, that's how it fucking is. And you have no idea that that is what, like, creates that pattern.
Hardwired you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I remember hearing a cool podcast with Jewel. Do you know Jewel, the musician?
Who will save your soul? Yes.
Yeah, she was on
Oh
Joe
my gosh. Yeah.
Rogan. And
Word.
I loved, like, she was homeless and fucking her mom stole millions, and
Now?
she was homeless before she was discovered, but
Okay.
she
I
was
was like,
sharing.
holy shit, she's
No,
gone
no, I'm
downhill.
sorry.
I didn't realize
But
this.
I loved how she articulated it, like, how she had to hack herself, and that's
Mm,
what we all have to kinda know ourselves to the degree that we can outsmart ourselves, but in a beneficial way, right? So that was definitely Kauai for me, like really learning the ticks and why and the failures and but like I said, I'm super sensitive, but it's a good thing. Like people say, oh, you're too sensitive. Da, da, da." I'm not that kind of sensitive. I'm energetically like I can fucking know um,
perceptive.
perceptive, yeah, like people and intent, and I've learned how to navigate that way better through failing, through being around the wrong people, with ill intent or selfish intent or whatever, you know?
Well, necessity is the mother of invention. So it's like,
Yeah.
man, how many times am I gonna? The Bible talks about like a fool is like a dog who eats its own vomit. It's like, how many
Yeah.
times am
I
I
know,
gonna
right?
just keep doing the same bullshit? And then
Yeah.
at some point, you just have to be chill with yourself and just be like, you know what? There's so many levels. We don't have to go off on this, but it's just
It's
like,
actually
wow,
really
we are
true
funny
that
things.
the self-compassion, I think, is like one of the missing links in the healing process. We give compassion to others, right?
Hmm.
But we forget to like really direct that to exactly what you said. Um, just being okay with whatever happened and our slips or whatever, but in a really loving way, not like, oh, I did my best or whatever,
Yeah, not a
like in
nihilistic apathy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like wow, that was
Well,
tough.
shit, I'm human. This is funny. I'm a
Yeah,
weird human being human. Yeah, I get it. It's just like it's a trip because I
it is.
think that sometimes some of our best moments of being ourselves probably aren't what we would qualify as being our best moments. If that makes sense. Like
True.
what in your own mind, you're like, oh man, that was it. That was the time. I wish I could repeat that, or
Yeah,
you cling to that, and then that
yeah,
might not mean anything to anybody else. And they're like, actually, that one knock knock joke was killer, man. Like
yeah.
that did it, or whatever.
Oh, I thought of
And it
something about your question about like one I flopped. So I was
oh, yeah.
writing a song on my guitar and I went to sing it at the Unity Church. It was so bad. I was so nervous that my throat like closed up and it was like I squeaked the song and I was like sweating. I knew I was flopping it, but I was like, fuck. Like, you
Push
can hear it.
through.
And I actually it scared me enough. And like the people that I knew were like, like the response, I just knew it just confirmed like that was probably the worst time I've
Can't get
ever
worse than that. Yeah, I
can't
guess
get
you could
worse than
lose
that.
your larynx, I guess,
Yeah,
but, oh, it's
yeah.
not fun. Yeah, we were on stage once and I was just stoned. I mean, I was usually stoned when I was playing. That's another reason I'm, like, trying to figure out, like, it's like, man, having a relationship with drugs and music, if you kinda, like, codependent them at some level,
Mhm,
it gets weird to not bad, but it's weird. It's not the same, not being stoned and, playing. But, basically we're up there and my brother wrote these songs and I'm like kind of just doing whatever and then literally it's like scarred me. I mean I laugh about it, but it's like this is still not fun. Like he basically was like, he's on the drum doing, he's like da, 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 like doing like the melody or whatever I was supposed to be doing, and I just kind of came out of my reverie and was just like PTSD'd on stage. It was gnarly. So I mean now I can laugh about it, but at the time I was just like, kill me, like, or
yeah, yeah,
whatever. So yeah, human. It's funny because on the one, I mean, you're an artist. Expression is like the image of God in us or whatever. It's like it's the
mhm,
highest calling in a sense, to
mhm,
be able to express authentically, and reflect processes and stories and compartmentalized emotions and all these kind of things.
mhm,
But at the same time, we are oddly frail, very real, and humble. It's humbling to remember, we're not just Napoleon all the time.
mhm,
Like there's limits here, right? Even he
yeah.
got sentenced to Alba or whatever. So it's just like actually he got sentenced to one island, Napoleon, and then he escaped or some shit. They had to take him to another place way further away. So it's like we're funny little things. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you would like to discuss, or anything on that level? I mean, I think we've kind of did a drive by of who thou art, but I just want to make sure there wasn't like, oh my son or whatever. It's like uh
No son. Oh,
word.
well, actually, speaking of son, I had a stepson and he passed away. He was only 21. That was kind of a shaker this year.
I'm sorry.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's just always a weird thing. I'm
Death
sure
is
people can
weird.
relate. It's the closest one, but also I have such a different head on my shoulders than I've ever had. So it was like real practice, to not dip into what we're programmed it means. Um, to feel into where he was at and the peace, so like there's just you can't describe it, but that was also a certain level of fire that's like fucking just do it all, like balls to the wall now. We are not guaranteed anything. Fucking everything is upside down. um uh I just don't give fucks anymore where I used to before. So um just yeah, the hesitation for me was probably the most painful thing. All the times I hesitated and could have wanted to
Mhm.
but didn't, and now I'm like,
Why
that's
not?
all I'm doing.
Yeah. Why
Whipping
not?
them through.
That's what's up. Well, I'm glad we caught you on a upswing, it seems. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going to be checking you out and
Cool. Thank
hitting you up randomly and being like, check out this song. I
Yeah, I
won't
want to hear
harass
your
you, don't
music
worry.
too.
Oh, I
No,
wasn't
harass
talking about, I was more
all you
like
want.
Stereolab. Do you know about Stereolab? Do you know about Air? I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Yeah.
a
I
whole
saw
world of
Air.
music.
Yeah.
Oh
I
shit.
saw
Okay, yeah.
Kraftwerk too. Had to, way back
Yeah,
at the Forum and
we'll have to
Coachella
geek out about
before
this
it
shit.
was
Because
cool.
I knew you were Team Rabbit Hole before you came on. I was just like, sometimes that
I
you can
knew I
just
was
tell,
too.
and I was like, bruh, she's down, she's cool. So I guess if there's any, we've been putting your link and stuff, but people should check
Oh,
out your
thank you.
SoundCloud and
Yeah.
your website, which I guess is kind of
Mhm.
linking up all the things.
Yeah. It's in
But is
works.
there a last? It doesn't have to be your epitaph forever, all time. But is there kind of a nugget of wisdom you want to leave us with?
You actually already said it. Live and let live. It's just the theme, for me. And I feel like people aren't letting others live
I'm
for some
horrible at
reason.
that. Trust me. I seem chill, but I'm
Oh,
like
we
I'm
all
Captain
are.
Von Trapp more than
We
you realize.
all are. I mean,
It's gnarly.
even I struggle, but as much as I can remember, it's just way freer and easier and more
More
beneficial, right?
fun.
Yeah, more fun, but it's like in the end, who fucking cares if you're happy? Like you don't care if someone else is doing whatever, honestly.
Yeah. That seems about right. I've been doing something weird, which is reading Yogi T quotes
Oh,
because I
I love
have
it.
these Yogi
I
T.
love
They're all great.
it.
Today's was "The one who listens understands." So, guys,
Ooh.
we got two ears and one mouth. Although we should be singing and not clogging up throat chakras, like you were saying. Maybe we don't have to go to Kauai for that. You know, pay attention and then
Yeah.
reflect what you've experienced, and that will be a key for somebody else,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Oh, sweet.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everybody for listening. Last thing I'd like to know is, would you like us to play Ride or Die as the outro? Because I just
Sure.
loaded it up, so we can do
Yeah.
that. All
Thank
right
you.
then. Thank you very
Word.
much. Thank you,
Bye.
Jim, as always.
For
Catch
sure.
you
you.
all next time.